Huh? Hey, I'm tryna win. I'm tryna win in the 716 and I'm making it big. I wanna live. I think I'm ready to.
Yo, what's good, man? This is Eastern Picture Podcast with your one and only host, Glory Boy, here with the next special guest in the show here. And I just want to say thank you so much. You're an amazing guest. I've known you for my whole college career, and I appreciate you everything that you've done for me, and also just taking time out of your schedule and being here. It's an amazing thing to have.
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's good to see
Most definitely. But yeah, guys, before we even start this, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. And also, like I mentioned, this is an important podcast. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I'm trying to bring more people that's going to give us more insight on just different career paths and so on, different stories that we're going to be hearing from people that may be inspirational, that can motivate you into doing something different in life, and keeping this world a better place. Yeah, thank you so much. And so I just want to let you know, you could go ahead and introduce yourself to the people, let them know who you are and what you do, and we can start.
All right. My name is Barbara Irwin. I was Glory's professor for 4 years over at Canisius University, and I retired a year and a half ago. I've been working for a long time, 10 years actually, on a book about a television program called Reading Rainbow. So after I retired, I spent the year immediately after my retirement working intensively on the book, and it was published in June. And I taught courses in media, media literacy, effects of media, those kinds of things, some production.
Right. Yeah. And you know what's crazy? I can say you Dr. Dr. Wanza, you guys have played a huge role in actually me starting my podcast, because you guys were my communication professors. You taught me oral communication, mass communication, and many more other courses, because it was a lot of different courses that we had to take. And and I can tell you guys she's a wonderful person. I can tell you guys that. And so today, basically, we're going to speak about Reading Rainbow, but most importantly, it's for the people to get to know you and know exactly a lot of things that you do for the community. So we can start off basically on just tell us a little bit more about yourself, like where were you born, where you from, and how was your childhood growing up?
Okay, thanks. First of all, I want to say it's great to see you doing this kind of thing, using your communication background to do a podcast like this. It's really great. So I grew up in Buffalo and went to University of Buffalo, earned a bachelor's degree. And soon after that, I did an internship at WNED PBS, which is our local public television station here. And that's how I got connected to Reading Rainbow. But growing up, I was, average middle class growing up kind of thing. I had a lot of friends, liked to be outside and do things and play sports, and read a lot too. So reading is really important. And when I was working on Reading Rainbow, I started as an intern and went back to graduate school thinking that I would continue in public television. And when I was in graduate school, I decided that I really loved graduate school, started teaching, and decided to continue on for a PhD. And that's when I left WNED to go back, or to continue on for my doctorate.
Wow.
But I always had a great love for public television and using media to do good things.
Right. That's what we need, because you can see nowadays it's like there's people that's using media to do good things, and there's people that's actually using it to do bad things as well. And all those things are going at a fast pace. It's easy to just reach a huge audience than it was before. So, like, throughout like your college career, tell us, like, what did you ever pursue, like, a different major? Because I know different people, sometimes they will, like me personally, I always wanted to become anesthesiologist, and I will always say this. And then when I got to college, I looked at my schedule. I looked at everything that I was doing. I'm like, man, like I'm not really enjoying sciences, and I had to switch a major. So how about you? Like, did you ever thought about doing something else, or
Well,
this was your always?
yeah. When I started at college, I started as a psychology major,
Okay.
and my intention was possibly to become a guidance counselor, or to continue on my education in psychology and become a psychologist. But so towards that end, as a student doing what students do, I looked at the course schedule and I thought, well, there's this course in the communication department called interpersonal communication. And I thought, well, as a psychology major with an interest in possibly counseling, then interpersonal communication would be really important. So I took that course, and I loved the course. So I thought, well, I wonder what else this communication department offers. So the next course I took was called Mass Communication, Survey of Mass Communication, I think it was called. And that's when I discovered that you could learn about the media. You could study the media. And I always loved television, and I always loved radio, and I always loved the media, but I never really knew that you could study those kinds of things. So I got immersed in the communication department and started taking more media-related courses. I didn't drop the psychology major. I ended up graduating with a degree in communication and psychology.
So 2 degrees.
Yes. Well, 1 degree, 2 majors.
Okay.
Yeah. And but my true love became media and media studies and that sort of thing. So
what really made you fall in love with media? Because, was it because of like different movie, or was there like people like in the movie industry that you looked up to, or?
Well, I liked the movies, but I loved television.
Okay.
And when I was growing up, it was, I kind of refer to it as like the golden age of comedy television. So there were great programs on at the time, the Mary Tyler Moore Show, the Bob Newhart Show, the Carol Burnett Show. So these people that I looked up to them and just loved what they were doing, and they were bringing such lightheartedness to things, and I really enjoyed that. So, and I was always interested also in how television programming was produced. So I love everything related to behind the scenes. My research, when I went into graduate school, started doing research on soap operas, which I had no interest in prior to my graduate work. And as an undergraduate student, I had actually avoided taking a course in daytime television that was about soap operas. The very first course I registered for as a graduate student was called Television Criticism. And all I knew was the title of the course from the listings, and I was just going back as a part-time student at the time. When I walked into the course the first night, I discovered that it was about soap operas. So I thought, well, okay, I'm a graduate student. I'll be open-minded about this. And I learned a lot about research in that course. And ironically, my dissertation ended up being about soap operas.
Yeah, I remember. I remember you introduced us to soap operas.
Yes.
At school.
Right. But what I was interested in was how soap operas were produced. Because here's a genre that is, in many ways, not looked upon in the greatest light by many people who don't understand it. Right. But it's an incredible medium to think about producers putting together an hour-long episode of television every day of the week, right? And it's been going on for decades, from the very beginnings of television, and it was on radio before that. But if anybody walked into a network today and said, we have this great idea, if soap operas never existed, somebody walks into a network today and says, we have this great idea for a new kind of program. We're going to do an hour-long program every single day, Monday through Friday, year-round, 260 episodes a year. People would look at you like you're crazy. There's no way you can do that, right? Because, from the television that you see today, how many episodes is a season? 15 episodes, maybe 20 episodes?
There's this one show that I was watching, and I was enjoying the show, and it only had like 4 episodes per season.
Yeah.
And then you know how many seasons it had? Just 2 seasons. And they haven't created any other in like how long? Like 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, man! Like, how you do something well, and then you just stop?
Right.
But soap operas were going for 265 days.
200,
Like a year.
Year round, not
Year-round.
weekends.
Yeah,
but Monday through
year-round.
Friday, year round.
Wow,
So that's like 260 episodes a year
260 episodes a year. And
of an hour-long show.
So how long did it go for? Like, how many years did it go for?
They're still going. I did an interview the other day about The Young and the Restless, and they just produced their 13,000th episode, and they're in their 52nd year now.
Wow. So for the people that may not understand soap operas, like, how would you explain it to them?
Okay, soap operas are serialized stories. Goes back to the times of like Dickens, right? Dickens used to write serialized stories, and people would wait for the next installment to come out. So soap operas use that idea. We say soap operas have no beginning and no ending, right? They kind of start, it's all middle.
Okay.
They start in the middle, and they just keep going. So they're stories about interpersonal relationships and family relationships, and they're character-driven. And, like I said, the Young and the Restless, the people who are playing the characters have been playing those same characters for 40, 45 years.
So
the same
so
actors.
they never switch the actors in terms of like, so they just want to keep everything.
Well, they'll recast if they need to,
Okay.
but some of the people that are on these shows have been on for 30, 35, 40, 45 years,
Wow.
the same actors. And audiences, the audience obviously has dwindled for soap operas, but the audience that stays with them is a very loyal audience.
Yeah, for that long, and also being able to create almost 5 days in a week and producing it for your audience, then yeah, there must be a loyal audience. Like, because imagine they weren't loyal and they started like shifting to a different direction. It wouldn't give. I don't think it would give the producers like any motivation to continue producing, because it takes a lot of money.
Yes.
Doing stuff like that.
Yes.
So now let's talk about your grad, actually pursuing your doctor's degree. How was that experience? And was it something that you really had to sit down and think about, or you just enjoyed the process of education and just went for it?
I enjoyed the process of education. When I made a decision after I finished, or as I was completing my master's degree, I had a conversation with my major professor. And my intention was to go back into public television with a master's degree, hopefully finding a position at a higher level than what I had before. And I was talking with my major professor, and she said, "Did you ever think about continuing for a PhD?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, maybe you should think about that. You're a very good student, and I think you'd get something out of this." And so my intention, after she said that, I thought about it, and I thought, well, I like school, and it would be kind of nice to have a PhD. I never thought beyond, like, what would I do with the PhD. I enjoyed teaching.
So you just wanted to have
but I just thought, here's a credential that would be good to have. So I decided to continue for that reason, and then kept teaching, and then discovered that I really loved teaching and learning new things all the time. No day if you're a professor, no day is ever exactly like any other day.
Oh, that's true. I mean, I've never been a professor, but I could see, I saw how the professors never really missed a single day.
Mm-hmm.
You guys made sure that you were there. Seemed like you was enjoying what you was teaching every single day, and we appreciate you guys for that. So now let's take a look into just after your PhD. what did you do after? Because I know you continue teach, you went into teaching, but like, did you like do any internships to actually get the job that you really wanted, or you just, because of the PhD, it kind of put you in that position right away?
Yeah, it was mainly the degree and then just searching for a teaching position. And I was fortunate to land a teaching position at Canisius in Buffalo, my hometown. So so that was important to me to be able to stay home where my family was.
Right.
And so I was fortunate in that way.
And it's a small school too. It's not like so big.
Right.
It's not like UB where
Right.
you went.
Right.
So Canisius kind of gave you the opportunity to not walk too far, or
Right. And I mean, getting to know students is really important. I mean, when I was an undergraduate student at UB, there were 400 students in
400?
many of my classes.
How did you stay focused though? Like, with
Yeah,
400
sometimes it wasn't easy, but
right. I can tell.
I mean, those were the introductory classes, and then when you took an upper level course, then there might have been, I mean, sometimes 15, 20, 25 students in a class, which was great. But in those 400 seat classrooms, we never got to know our professors. Our professors didn't know who we were.
Yeah, so you just, so like there was no, because I know at Canisius we used to have like the one-on-one meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Your office was literally like right close to the classroom.
Right.
We get out of the classroom and like you would just, like students would just walk to your office,
Right.
easy, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like how did you schedule the one-on-one with the professor if you needed like some extra help?
Well, we could schedule them, but I don't remember ever scheduling a meeting with any of my introductory course professors. But in upper level courses, you can meet with the professors.
Okay.
But those earlier years, that really wasn't the case. I mean, students talked to other students, but we didn't really have much interaction at all with the professors.
Man, I mean, 400 students in a class.
Yeah.
I mean, how long did it take to receive your test back? Because I want to know, because it's a lot of students.
It is. Well, I don't remember, but what I probably could tell you, if I'm thinking back, most of them probably were multiple choice exams. So we just filled in the little Scantron sheets and then got those back.
Yeah, I never liked multiple choice.
Yeah.
Never liked it. I always liked just like writing my answer like down, and I feel like multiple choice is just, some people are so lucky.
Right. You got a 1 in 4 chance.
Yeah,
right?
you gotta be lucky
Yeah.
sometimes to be so good at that. All right, so now let's just jump straight into like reading itself. But I just wanna ask you this: what is the importance of literacy in your own words?
I think it's central to just about everything. I don't think that you can function in our world without having literacy skills. The other thing about literacy that's so important is that through reading, we can experience so many things that we can't experience otherwise. So we can go to different places that we would never be able to travel to. We can travel back in time. We can travel forward in time. And reading engenders empathy because we experience things through the characters' lives that we're reading about. And it's just so important.
Yeah. So like growing up as a young kid, because I know you like reading, were your parents always, pushing you to read and making sure that you're actually becoming a reader, to say?
That's a good question. I don't remember my parents ever pushing me because I don't think they had to. What I do remember as a very young child is my mom reading stories to me.
Okay.
Out of kids' storybooks, and also just telling me stories. Stories that without having a book, but just telling stories that way.
Right.
But I do remember certain books that I loved as a kid. I remember when the book fairs would come to our elementary school, and I remember always asking my parents if I could buy a new book.
Oh.
And most of the time the answer was no, just probably because of the finances of that. But when they did give me a few dollars to buy a new book, that was just so much fun.
I know. You make me just think about the moment when I was in middle school. So we used to have a day where they would take all of us to the library. So as we're in the library, they're like, okay, guys, today, this is your library card. Choose a book that you'll be reading for this whole week, and then you have to return it on this day. So we'll all just go through like a bunch of books, trying to find like a book. And a lot of different kids, a lot of my friends usually liked reading, they like reading comic books. So they will always just grab comic books, and me out there, I'm just trying to find something that I can enjoy reading, and I always go for nonfiction books. So I'll always look for books that just historical books and all that. And I'll grab that, and then that would just be my whole book for like the whole week.
Yeah.
And man, I miss those days. And then also when it came to like reading Rainbow, how did you like, find the passion to actually go back and actually start writing the book again, which took you about, you said 10 years.
Yeah, well, yeah. When I was in graduate school, I did an internship at WNED, and I worked on Reading Rainbow. So I did that for about 4 years. It was just a part-time. I started as an intern. They hired me after my internship for a part-time position that I stayed with them for about 4 years, working on Reading Rainbow and working on other literacy initiatives that the station was involved in. And I loved it. It's an incredible show. It's a reading motivation series for children, and it was designed to address something called the summer loss phenomenon. So you think back to when you were a kid, and you were in elementary school, and first grade, second grade, third grade, you're reading while you're in school.
Okay.
And then the end of June comes, and you're on summer vacation. You probably didn't read a lot over the summer.
Oh, no,
right? And
not at all.
Right. And most kids don't. I didn't read a lot over the summer either.
Not at all.
So what teachers found is that kids' reading skills dropped over the summer. That's summer loss phenomenon. So when teachers came back and kids came back to school in September, the teachers would sometimes have to spend 6 weeks getting kids back up to the reading level that they were at in June when they left, because kids weren't reading over the summer. And at a very early age, when you're a beginning reader, it's critical to keep reading to maintain those skills. So a gentleman by the name of Tony Bettino, who is my co-author on this book about Reading Rainbow, said he worked at WNED in instructional television, and he said, I know television can do something to help with this summer loss. So he started thinking about how you could produce a television program that would motivate kids to read, right? Not teach them to read, but motivate them to read so that they would keep reading over the summer. And he spent 5 summers experimenting with different kinds of television programs for kids to get them to keep reading.
So did this, did you guys also, just throughout the process of writing the book, did you reach out to like parents to also kind of like get them involved and allowing them to see the importance of Reading Rainbow?
Well, the book tells the story of the early history and the development and the work that Tony was doing, the work that was happening here in Buffalo. Most people don't know the series originated right here in Buffalo.
Really?
And so the book tells the early history and development of it. So so the people that we talked with primarily were people who were involved in the production of it. LeVar Burton is the host of the series. We talked with LeVar. We talked with the producers. We talked with the first writer of the series. So we were looking at, what were the things that were going on in the late 70s and early 80s prior to the launch of Reading Rainbow in 1983 that helped to, like these kind of building blocks that were happening to bring this series to actuality. And so we talked with the production team. Librarians played an important role. We talked with librarians. We talked with some teachers. And we talked with some people who grew up watching Reading Rainbow, who told us how much it meant to them to be able to go on the adventures. What the series did was feature award-winning children's books, quality children's literature.
Okay.
And there would be a feature book for each episode. So someone, generally a celebrity, would read the story. And what viewers would see were the illustrations from the book on the screen, with some very simple animation to kind of bring the story to life for kids. So imagine, as you're growing up and your parents are reading a story to you, your teachers reading a story to you, your librarians reading a story to you. It was that sort of feeling to incorporate in the series.
Right.
And that feature book then was a takeoff point for some sort of adventure that LeVar Burton, who was the host, would go on. So there's a book called Hill of Fire. It's about a volcano in Mexico.
So it's all in there, or
there's
all
an appendix in here that's got all of the books listed, all of the episodes and all of the books.
Right.
So LeVar for this Hill of Fire episode, they went to Volcano National Park in Hawaii, where they were anticipating that Kilauea was going to erupt. And they were almost to the point of heading home because it didn't erupt. They were packing, and the producer got a phone call saying it's about to go. So they all went back to Kilauea, and there's this incredible footage of LeVar standing in front of Kilauea as it's erupting. And
like a human standing in front of a volcano.
well, he's like a half a mile away, but
isn't that dangerous though?
I imagine it wasn't the safest thing to do, and I imagine,
Right.
and this was in the 1980s, so I imagine today there might be more regulations to keep people at a greater distance or something. But the footage of this volcano erupting and the lava flowing down the mountain, and LeVar experiencing that, allowed the children who were watching to experience something so incredible.
Right.
And every episode did that. Every episode took kids on a field trip that was related to the story. And then each episode also featured children telling other children about books that they've read. I think my headphones are slipping here. Related to the theme of the feature book, 3 other books with a child telling child viewers, here's a book that I read. Here's a little bit about it. I think you would really enjoy this book. You should go to your library and
So it was
check
more
it out.
like you tell a story to someone tells a story to the next person. So
Yes.
it's more just to kind of like build a community
Yes.
of a bunch of storytellers and also authors, because a lot of them, I believe, started writing those stories to tell other people the stories.
Right. And imagine, think of yourself as an adult. How do you choose the books that you read? Maybe one of your friends says, "Oh, I read this great book,"
Yep,
right?
that's true.
So using that concept to have children tell other kids to check out a book was really, really important to the show. And again, with the idea to motivate children to read, what better way to motivate a kid to read than have another kid tell them what a great book is that they just read?
That's true. I mean, throughout even when it comes to movies itself, because today a lot of kids will say, "Oh, have you watched that show?"
Right.
And the kid will say, "No, like you have to watch it. Like it's really nice." It kind of like makes them feel more comfortable because someone their age have watched it, so why
Right.
not me?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So then when it came to just building that team, because I know when you started writing the book, and then you had Tony, and I see also you had Pam
Johnson.
Pam
Yep.
Johnson.
Pam.
How did you guys take part on how to kind of like write the book together?
Okay.
And become one?
Let me introduce Pam Johnson as well. So Tony spent his entire career at WNED in Buffalo, doing educational television, instructional television. Pam Johnson started as an intern also at WNED.
So you guys were there together?
We were not interns at the same time. She was before me.
Okay.
So she was in a higher position by the time I started.
Okay.
But she spent many years at WNED in educational services. And ultimately, when Tony retired as vice president of educational services, Pam assumed that role at WNED. And after a stellar career at WNED, she went on to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting in Washington, which is where she is now. And in a program as the director of a program called Ready to Learn. So she's got a hand in helping people develop new educational programming.
That's amazing.
For children. So we were a really good team to work on this book because we all had firsthand experience with Reading Rainbow. We knew each other 40 years ago. Pam and Tony obviously worked together for many years. When I went back to graduate school, I kind of lost touch with them a little bit. But it was in 2014 when I was thinking about a new research project. I thought, nobody's ever written anything about Reading Rainbow. And it's a really important series, right up there with Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, among the longest running children's programs and children's programs that had the greatest impact. Reading Rainbow was the most used children's television program in schools. So we talk to people all the time that say, I remember watching Reading Rainbow when I was in school. A teacher would wheel in the TV cart, and they'd pop a VHS tape in.
You're taking me so far.
Yeah.
I remember when the teacher in middle school, they would say, okay, guys, I need a favor. Me, and then you would just drag the TV.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
And so many people remember seeing Reading Rainbow. So because it started as a summer series to build that idea of motivating kids to read over the summer. And after several years, it was so successful, and they built up enough episodes that it became a year-round series. But it was so people could watch it, kids could watch it at home, and kids also watched it in school, many of them.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So this has been there for a very long time.
It started in 1983. It was on the air until 2009. So that's 26 years.
Isn't that an amazing thing, like seeing how something can be brought back to life in today's world? Like you just sit down and say, you know what? Nobody have written a book about Reading Rainbow. Why not do it?
Yeah.
And then the team just came together and started doing it.
Right. And so it took a very long time. Mainly because for me it was difficult to carve out time to work on it while I was teaching full time and chairing a department and doing all different kinds of things and then there were some life events that got in the way a little bit and slowed our progress down. But our work intensified over the last 3 years, but it's a really important show and a really good story, I think, and an important story to tell. Not only about the fact that it originated in Buffalo. It's not entirely a Buffalo story because the people in Buffalo partnered with another public television organization in Nebraska, and with a production company in New York, and that was the kind of the dream team that came together to produce Reading Rainbow. And it's a really, really well-produced, excellent show.
Yeah, I've seen also a picture of you and the team together, and I saw you guys smiling. I think you was doing like you were signing the books. I believe, I don't know if that's when you were signing the book, because you told me you was going to Canisius to sign books,
Right.
and I was supposed to come, but unfortunately I had work that day. So let's talk about just being able to sign books for people. How has that made you feel throughout that process?
It's been fun because the people who are interested in this book, most of them grew up watching Reading Rainbow. And what we found in writing the book, and what we find in talking with people when they come with a book for us to sign, is that everybody has some sort of Reading Rainbow story to tell. Everybody's got some sort of connection to the show because the show is so meaningful to them. So to hear people tell us what Reading Rainbow meant to them as they were growing up is really rewarding. And makes us feel good about not only having had a hand in producing the show, but also in now today, looking at the history of it and how it came to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be happy too if I was if I was the one that wrote it, and then you see how many people are actually able to appreciate the work that you're doing. So let's talk about just the importance of team, because we're about to end soon, but like just the importance of teamwork. So what did you take from just being a team, like part of the team, and also just being able to participate just with a group of people to come up with this story?
Okay. I'm going to answer that on two different levels. All right. So my involvement with producing Reading Rainbow was very minimal. All right. I was like low on the totem pole. But I felt as if even the little things that I was doing, I was involved in some of the production of the book review segments, because the first several years, those were all Buffalo kids, kids from Buffalo and Western New York. So I had a very small part in helping with the production of those segments, and recognizing that this was a team of people who were 1,000% in and committed to what they were doing and believing in the importance of what they were doing. So every time we talked with someone that we were interviewing that was involved in the early development of the show, they talked about how important the work was that they were doing, and they recognized that. And these were people who were very early on in their careers.
Right.
But many of them stayed with the production of Reading Rainbow for its entire run of 26 years. So that tells you something about the team, the production team that became family, right? And very close, and still very close relationships among the people that worked on the show. One of the people who started as an intern and worked on the pilot episode married one of the other people that was working on the show.
That is incredible.
And another associate producer is like very close friends with the producer and director of the show. So these are relationships that were built 40 plus years ago that still exist today. So I think your idea of teamwork is really relevant here.
Yeah,
it was
teamwork
a good team.
is important.
And there's actually an episode of Reading Rainbow about teamwork, and LeVar Burton does a little dance number to a song called Teamwork.
Wow.
And talks about how important that is. And you've heard, like, there's no I in team,
Yeah,
right?
it's always we.
It's we, yeah. And and that's real important, because one of the things that Tony said is, like, he believed in what he was doing, and he never really sought out credit for it. He never cared who got credit for it. What's important, and this is a guy who won 5 Emmy Awards as executive producer of Reading Rainbow. This Tony, yeah.
He won 5 Emmy Awards.
Won 5 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Children's Series.
Wow.
The show won 10. Tony had retired by the time it won the other 5. But that's not really what's important to him. What's important to him is that millions of kids became readers and came to love books and came to love reading because of Reading Rainbow. That's what's important to him.
Right.
So then in terms of our team writing the book, we work very great together. We had a lot of fun. We were, some of this was happening during COVID, so we did a lot of Zooms and divided up the work and then reviewed what other people were doing, and it was a really close collaboration, and we just had a lot of fun doing it. It was great. It was great for all of us, I think, to reconnect after not having worked together for a number of years.
Yeah, and that's what people say. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes.
And that's the dream.
Yes.
Like a dream in reality. But yeah, and so I just want to end with this. I want to ask you, just what words of motivation would you give to the young kids that's growing up, that's trying to pursue different career paths, to continue going, to never lose faith in whatever that they're trying to achieve?
Yeah. Do what you love, and you won't feel like you're working, right? You shouldn't dread what your work is, right? So do what you love. Don't give up on your dreams, and good things will happen.
Good things will happen. Thank you so much, Dr. Irwin. It was a pleasure having you here, and I know you're busy, so we just have to end it here. Thank you once again, guys, for tuning in. This is Easy Pinch Out Podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And just to end with, where can they find the book, Reading Rainbow?
Anywhere books are sold.
Okay.
It's called Creating Reading Rainbow.
Creating Reading Rainbow. You guys heard that. Thank you so much. And I'm also going to put the link in the description with I believe the Amazon link where they can just find it. But yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for having me, Gloria.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Great talking to you.
Bye.